Hey friends, welcome back. Today, with summer imminent, or possibly here, wherever you are, I thought let's do some sunscreen reviews because I've been trying a lot of different things, especially to see what I feel like works best with my current skincare, as well as underneath makeup, as I've been trying different makeup, and I have some opinions. So I'm going to show you, I think I'll start with the things that just didn't work for me the way that I wanted them to, and so it's hard for me to recommend them. Then get into the things that I've been using the most, and if there's anything left at that point, then I'll talk about that at the end. Starting off with this, because I tested it for a few days and then realized that something in my routine was making me itchy, and eliminating this actually did get rid of it. So this is the Beet the Sun, B-E-E-T, lightweight sunscreen broad spectrum SPF 40 PA+++, which I think is the UVA rating. It has beetroot, hyaluronic acid, and vitamin E in it. It's by Krave Beauty. I saw this on a list of sunscreens that were good for dry skin, and I don't really have any strong opinions about it in that respect. It seemed like it was performing okay, but I just can't with the itchiness, and I'm not really sure what I was reacting in it. It's a chemical sunscreen with avobenzone, homosalate, octisalate, and octocrylene. And I think that those are pretty standard active ingredients in a chemical facial sunscreen. So I doubt that it's one of those things that I was reacting to. Perhaps it was the beetroot. I don't know. So I'm always sad to not be able to at least use up an SPF. But in this case, I either need to find a friend who doesn't have sensitive skin at all, which might be a tall order, or just decide that, alas, this is just not something I'm going to be able to use up. Another one that didn't cause problems for me in that way, but just didn't do what I wanted, is the Bum Face 70 SPF. This uses the same chemical filters as that previous SPF, but with higher percentages to get that 70. It's fragrance-free, that's the main reason that I got it, as well as water-resistant, which is always a nice thing to have in a sunscreen, especially water-resistant doesn't just mean you can get into the pool, it also means that it's going to stay a little bit better on your skin if you're very sweaty or oily. So that's a good quality to have in your array of sunscreens that you have to work with. So really the problem with this is just that it looks very greasy on my face and it doesn't dry down smoothly. So if I use it on other parts of my body, which having a fragrance-free sunscreen is really nice, to be able to put it on top of whatever else you've got going on and not have competing fragrances. But because it looks very greasy on my face and anywhere else that I've tried it, it remains kind of sticky feeling. It's just not something that I can get a lot of use out of. I don't think I tried it under makeup just because it wasn't like a dewy greasy. It was, oily kind of greasy look on me. And so, maybe I will find some way to use it up or hand it off, but it's not going to do what I needed in that respect. I do sort of remember, I think I had bought this before and had a similar thing happen a few years ago. And I feel like their Face 50 has a little bit better reviews in that respect, but I don't feel like continuing, to experiment by buying like each SPF level. It is really nice to have something SPF 70 available because I am very fair. I'm going to burn easily. If I'm out in the direct sun, then I really like to have those kinds of options, but this just isn't going to be it for me. Another higher SPF formula, also fragrance-free, also intended to be a daily facial SPF, is the Naturium Dew Glow Moisturizer SPF 50. And this is one where I feel like if I had just a little bit less dry skin so that my skin was more tolerant of wearing just an SPF with nothing underneath it, then I think this might be fine. But I find that on top of any amount of skincare, similar to the Face 70 SPF from Bum, this is another one that most of the time just doesn't dry down fully on me. in a way where it feels smooth to the touch as opposed to staying just slightly tacky. And I find that a really frustrating quality if I'm going to put it underneath anything. Which brings me to kind of another thing that comes up, I feel like, a lot with SPF and SPF reviews. Most people don't apply enough. Like this is a well-known sort of thing among people who work in sunscreen. Most folks don't actually apply enough, and so it's never clear, like if you go on a website and read the reviews for like a daily facial SPF, you don't really know if the people who like it are people who just aren't applying enough. And for reference, enough is about 1/4 teaspoon to cover your entire face. If you have trouble eyeballing it, it's not a bad idea to grab a measuring spoon and just a couple of times like actually test it. Oh, and this is something else that I thought I would like about this, that it's got a pump, you know, instead of having to squirt it out. And I think I found that 2 pumps of this was about the right amount of SPF to cover everything. It didn't give me the kind of cosmetic effect that I needed in terms of being able to wear it with anything else. And often, you know, I also put some skincare on my neck and chest, and it's the same problem there where it just remains really sticky. I tried it again the other day, and every time I looked down, I felt like my chin was sticking to my neck here, and that was not a good experience. So that was just not a comfortable thing. I'm just disappointed, you know, because I really do want to have this higher SPF option for me. But this one is not doing it either. So I will either find another part of my body to use this on. I have a feeling that like everything but that Beet sunscreen, I can probably, when we get into shorts weather, use it on my legs and I won't mind. So that's probably the fate of these other ones. This is a little bit, it's not the most expensive thing on the market, but it does feel a little silly to be using something that's in, you know, just this little tube for the rest of my body. But, you know, sunscreen is sunscreen ultimately. Oh, and this is also a chemical SPF. It has homosalate, octasalate, and avobenzone. One last thing that I dislike about this product, I store things upright whenever I can. I just find it easier to see what I have at a glance and access it. And the center of gravity on this bottle is not down here with the cap. You know, it's somewhere here at like the bulk of the product. And so if you store it upright like this, it falls over constantly. The cap's not big enough on the bottom. And personally, I know it's just a pet peeve, but personally, I find that really irritating, and that would on its own actually be enough to keep me from buying it again, unfortunately. Okay, so those are the rejects, and all of those were really more a facial SPF kind of thing. My go-to full body SPF that I use, especially in the summer, is this Bum SPF 50. It's also a chemical sunscreen with those same 4 ingredients that we're seeing in a lot of things: avobenzone, homosalate, octasalate, and octocrylene. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward in that respect. It's a perfect weight. This does dry down on me. The only reason that this isn't like the one true SPF for all occasions for me is that it smells like kind of a banana coconut thing, which I love sunscreen scents in hot weather. This is like, I mean, to me, this just smells like short shorts and tank tops and cold drinks on the patio and like, you know, all those things that I absolutely adore. So if I could get exactly this, but without the fragrance, I would buy like one of each and just use that. I haven't tried it on my face recently. It's something I'm sure I have in the past, like, you know, doing outdoor stuff, hiking or something like that. But it's been long enough since I would have tried it that way that I just don't remember if it's something that I feel like I could layer other stuff on top of. Maybe I'll pick one of those 90-degree days and just try it, just for the sake of experiment. Could be worth seeing. One other Sunbum thing that I forgot to grab is my go-to lip SPF is their mineral SPF stick. I have the white package, no color. I'll make sure that I list it in the description along with all the other things. And because it's a mineral SPF, it does give a little bit of a white cast, which I don't mind on me, on my lips. To me, it actually just helps me remember that I'm wearing it and that I need to put more on later. So that's the one that I use. I know that there are much more cosmetically elegant SPFs out there for lips, and maybe at some point I'll try one of those. But I didn't really feel a need to get any fancier than that, and it's affordable. Then let's talk about the one that I'm wearing today. You've heard me talk about this before. It is the e.l.f. Suntouchable Whoa Glow in SPF 30. I absolutely love the finish. I love how it applies to my skin. It dries down the right way. It works really well under makeup. The only thing that keeps me from just exclusively using this on my face and neck is that on me it's a little too reflective in terms of giving a little bit more of a metallic look on top of my skin as opposed to that glow from within kind of effect. And so I pretty much only want to use this underneath something else instead of just on its own. Although on my, I have it on my neck here today, and I don't get nearly as much of that effect here as compared to on my face, especially on top of the rosacea. So I do sometimes apply it, even if I've got something else on my face, sometimes I'll apply it just in this area to get that kind of nice, sunlit glow if I am as though, I'm just ready to bask. So this one is highly recommended. I've tried the Supergoop version of it. I think it's called the Glow Screen. And I found that one was a little more glittery on me. And I really like the sort of, finer pearl reflectiveness of this one on my skin personally. I think that this is also a little bit more sheer in terms of that glow. And I recall the Supergoop one being a little bit more not opaque, but just a little bit more of a coverage of that kind of glittery effect. And personally, I found it a little overwhelming and not flattering on my skin. I know that other people absolutely swear by that, even though Supergoop is quite a bit more expensive than the e.l.f. products. So, if you have your opportunity to grab a sample of each of them, it's worth comparing, but I don't see any reason to spend more money to get the Supergoop version for that one. And then the other SPF that I really like under makeup specifically, I have, in this case, both the Supergoop mini of it and the e.l.f. version. So the Supergoop version is Unseen Sunscreen. It's an SPF 40. And the e.l.f. version is the Suntouchable Invisible Sunscreen SPF 35. They both are clear gel or maybe slightly, very ever so slightly milky gel formulas. Both of them leave a smooth but matte kind of finish on the skin. And so if I'm looking for something that isn't really going to change the appearance of the makeup that I have underneath, then this is what I go for. I just want a smooth, even surface to put makeup on top of. These are great. I don't have a preference between the two. I need to try the e.l.f. one a little bit more though, because I got this one more recently. But again, there's a huge difference in price. It would be nice if the e.l.f. version was also an SPF 40, and I honestly have no idea why that would be different. It looks like they're using the same chemical filters in both of them. Oh, this is another interesting difference that they list. So the e.l.f. one says that it's water resistant to 80 minutes, and the Supergoop says that it is water and sweat resistant for 40 minutes. So I wonder if there's something about the difference in formulation for that meant that they couldn't, the formula, they didn't want to put a little bit more of those active ingredients in it. But again, this is just guessing. I really don't know. So this is a good opportunity though to talk about why like, why would you be looking for a higher SPF? You know, you'll hear like SPF 30 is perfectly fine for most people most of the time. There's some caveats to that. One of them is that, like I said earlier, most people don't actually apply enough sunscreen. And even if you do, you have a pretty good idea of it. You're never going to get every single part of your face and your skin exactly evenly to get like that full coat. So using a higher SPF kind of helps compensate for that. Or the other reason that I think people might be hesitant to go for the highest SPF that they can is that there's a myth that wearing SPF reduces your amount of vitamin D production from being out in the sun. But according to Lab Muffin Beauty Science, which I'm going to link to her channel again because she does absolutely great work in debunking SPF myths and explaining how, you know, like how things work, how you should best use them. According to some of the stuff that she's cited, it doesn't actually matter, in part because, again, you're going to miss spots, but also it seems like the aspects that are getting blocked from the sunlight are not actually like the entirety of what's necessary for you to produce vitamin D. And if I can find a specific source on that or a specific video where she talks about that, I will link to it, because that's something that I believed for a really long time. And I was relieved, as somebody who is often vitamin D deficient if I don't take my supplements, and also extremely pale. It was good to know that I really can just like wear as much SPF as possible and not worry about making that like seasonal vitamin D deficiency issue worse. So I think, just to wrap back to these two products, I think that they're pretty much equivalent. I don't have a strong preference between the two. If that changes, I'll try to mention it in a future video. But I think if you are looking for something like that, of like very smooth, dry finish kind of clear gel SPF, this is a good option to look at. Either one of them, whatever you've got available. And then the last SPF that I have here to talk about is the NYX Blur Screen SPF 30. This is listed as a blurring primer sunscreen, broad spectrum, again using those same 4 chemical filters. And the thing that I want to say about this is that it's a perfectly fine SPF. If what I want is just to put some sunscreen on my face, this is fine. I don't like it as a primer. I've found that it does absolutely nothing for me in terms of like using as a primer under makeup, I don't think I get any blurring from it. I think on me it's very slightly mattifying, and not in a drying way, but it just sort of gives a smoothing effect just by being a little bit more of a matte finish. I don't really have a lot of use for that, and it's too bad. It's a new product. I was hopeful that maybe I would get a little bit more out of it, but unfortunately, obviously skin and skin types vary so much, so this might be ideal for somebody else, but for me it's fine. I'll use it, but I'll save it for days where I'm just not actually planning to do anything else. And because it's only 1 fluid ounce, actually let me compare to those other ones. So Naturium gives you 1.7 fluid ounces for theirs. Sunbum has the biggest container, the biggest package. This is a 3 fluid ounce. Oh, another thing about the formula, it's very, very liquidy. Like, this is one where if I open it cap down, it just gets everywhere. So, just something to keep in mind if this does end up being something you want to pick up. You can find it at a lot of like drugstores and Target and stuff. So that would be one reason that it's worth having a look at. And then I don't have a full size of the Supergoop, so I can't compare that. But the e.l.f. Whoa Glow is 1.69 fluid ounces. That's about the same amount of product as the Naturium. And unfortunately, I don't remember the specific prices to compare. Well, let me go look. I checked with these two products. The e.l.f. is $14 and the Naturium is $22. Given that this is SPF 50, this is only SPF 30, that price difference makes sense to me. So just to compare, in case that's something you were interested to know. I forget if I finished what I was saying about the NYX Blur Screen, but if I didn't, then it's fine as an SPF. I wouldn't use it as a primer, and I'm a little disappointed that NYX I've seen actually marketing this as an 18-hour product, because that could be true for the primer capabilities, but it is not true for an SPF. There is no, it doesn't matter if it's a chemical or physical, mineral, SPF or whatever, they are all only rated to last for 2 hours under average conditions. So regardless of the type of SPF you use, you do need to be reapplying it during the day to get that stated amount. And truly, if you need all day SPF protection, all day UV protection, the only thing that will do that without being a product that you put on multiple times during the day is UV protective clothing. And that's something that I think, you know, among the sort of beauty fashion side of it kind of gets overlooked. But in terms of preventing, you know, preventing the effects of UV, right, in terms of skin cancer and wrinkles and sunburns and discoloration, all of that stuff, you know, UV protective clothing really is a good tool to have. You can find a lot more variety of this these days, especially because it's become kind of part of the sort of outdoor and surf fashion. I have some hiking clothes that are UV rated, and I just feel that, like, if you're going to be outside all day, it really can simplify things to at least be able to, like, when you're in direct sun, put a UV protective layer on instead of having to keep track of exactly, you know, when did you last do it on your arms, that kind of thing. So that's something I want to call out for people to think about too. So all of these are physical sunscreens, and that's because personally, I don't really have a preference between the two. I do think that, I know that there's a lot of misinformation about that, and everything that you can buy here, these have all been tested as safe in terms of those SPFs. Using a chemical sunscreen is not going to destroy your brain or give you rabies, or I don't even know, like, what weird stuff is circulating. Like, they're perfectly safe, all of this stuff. The reason that mineral sunscreen is possibly less appealing is that the things that cause that physical sun filter are whitening ingredients. It's titanium dioxide and zinc dioxide. They are white pigments in a lot of uses. There's no way to make a physical sunscreen that is not going to have some degree of white cast. And they can add tint and pigment to counteract that to some extent. But if you really need something that isn't going to show up on the skin whatsoever, then you're going to be looking at a chemical SPF. The mineral physical sunscreens that claim to not leave a white cast, they are either lying or they're using less of those ingredients and adding these other SPF boosters that get it to that SPF rating, but don't get listed as active ingredients. And personally, I would rather know exactly what filters are being used than have those kind of hidden, because they're trying to suggest a different effect. You know, I would just really rather see all of those things listed accurately so I know exactly how much is in there. There's a couple of things that I don't have that I'm really interested in trying. Fenty Skin is coming out with a daily SPF moisturizer sort of thing that comes in 10 shades. And I'm really curious to see what the pigment looks like on that and to give it a try for myself. I also ordered the InBeauty Mineral Sun Glow SPF. This has gotten a lot of good reviews that I've seen. It only comes in 2 shades. And so I'm not really sure what the fair medium beige is going to look like on me, but I'm curious to try a few more of these tinted sort of products. So I feel like that'll be a good one to compare to some other things. And if there's another of these, you know, daily facial, even daily facial SPFs, even moisturizers with SPF, those sorts of things that you love and you've got dry skin and you think I should try, please leave a comment and let me know. I would like to test more of these things and be able to compare them and, you know, maybe later in the summer do kind of another review or a ranking or something like that. So I will be looking for a few more things that I can add in to compare stuff to. I'm also thinking about doing some kind of a tinted SPF showdown. So let me know if you want to see that, and also if you have any recommendations specifically for tinted products. Preferably something that comes in at least 2 shades, because, you know, it's not just, is it going to be too weirdly beige or tan on me, but also, You know, is there something that conceivably is going to work for people who have darker skin? And I would rather not be reviewing a tinted product that only works for a narrow slice of humanity, you know? I don't think that that's a very interesting thing to be sharing. Because, you know, part of the thing of being a reviewer is not just to tell you, like, okay, this is my perfect ideal, but also to be able to explain why, to talk about who else it's going to be for, and to honestly sideline the things where I just don't feel like they're trying very hard to produce a product that's going to be appropriate to everybody out there who wants it. You know, like, I don't feel like I need to spend my time on that stuff. So I hope this is something that will leave you feeling just a little bit more prepared for summer, to get outside, do the things that you love doing, and not worry so much about your skin and how your skin's going to fare, you know. I think part of having an SPF that really truly works for you, that you're comfortable using every day, is just that it can become a sort of set it and forget it aspect of your routine, you know? And I think that that's really valuable, so we can just get out there and enjoy ourselves. And once again, if you haven't subscribed yet, I really hope that you will. I will be continuing to talk about summer skincare and how dry skin fares in all of these different kinds of conditions, and plenty other things that I think will be interesting to you. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you're seeing a little bit of good weather wherever you are. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Bye.